Hello and welcome back to Breaking the Rules. This is BioEnchanted, and today we'll be doing one of the more interesting levels in the game once I've remembered where the stairs are. There we are. This is a level I quite like, although it's still not quite as good as its equivalent in the second game. But compared to levels in this game, it's generally just more interesting.
Vicky has your wish power. Sorry, hon, but we'll fix it once we have the pages of the rules. Hey, twerp! Why aren't you doing your chores? It's Saturday, the most exciting day of the week. I don't do chores on Saturday. You think this is exciting? It's a dull morning in a dull town. But anything could happen on a Saturday. A circus could arrive, dinosaurs might escape a nearby government facility, aliens might attack. I wish aliens would attack. At least that would be more interesting than... What's that? This doesn't look good.
What's worse, having your brain sucked out through a bendy straw by aliens or being babysat by Vicky?
I guess you have a point.
I think that's the closest Vicky and Timmy have ever had to an actual civil conversation. I mean, she basically agreed with him. At least insofar as the idea of aliens attacking being exciting. So this level's vaguely interesting, but it has a lot of problems with the way it portrays itself that will come up about now. And that's the problem with it. They've taken a vaguely interesting idea of aliens destroying Dimsdale as you're travelling through it, and made it so slow and ponderous. There's no real music for when it's actually doing anything actiony, it's just when it's arriving and leaving gets a small sting. And the sound effects and visual effects of the attacks are just very dull. It's just like orange juice blowing everything up for no reason. And it's a really dull effect, given what's supposed to be happening. And yeah, the cell inside that house, but I kind of missed where it went for a bit. I'll see it in a minute. There we go. It's annoying when you go off screen and you end up like losing track of them. Quite like the music though, overall. Like, this part of the music at least. But here again is another completely silent cutscene of the aliens blowing stuff up in the most boring possible way. I mean, the effect is more though, it's less similar to something blowing up and more similar to when you've trying to decorate a cake and you put too much icing sugar on top of it and you have to blow off the excess. It just... the neighborhood falls apart. That's all it really is, that sound effect. I'll be gathering...
Looks like a Yugopotamian.
Those pesky Yugo potatoes!
They hate nice things.
I guess we're going to find out just how nice you can be!
Now, this level's vaguely interesting because it has while it's still a straight line like pretty much all the other levels, it's a straight line that's really tied in knots, so it feels a lot more explory than the other parts of the game because it's got actual dead ends, not really with anything in them, but it's got like... it's got more of an actual design to it when it comes to the line's less of an obvious line, even though it's still clearly a line you're following. There's more to actually look at, and more like little areas that have more unique aspects to them. There's a cute thing here, where we don't fight off the Yugopotamians, we just scare them off because they're afraid of anything cute and good, like a child. Which I thought was a cute idea. And this level still has some writing issues with it, but it's not quite as wonky as the other levels are with that kind of thing. Like, they have some aspects of it that are true to the show.
I can make a wish.
Use it wisely, sweetie, or just have some fun.
Well, I need a way to get through these beaten up houses.
They are pretty wrecked. I suppose a few more holes wouldn't be a problem.
We're power plugs now, Timmy.
Use us to break stuff. Just punch away.
It'll take some fancy.
I like the power gloves, they're so bad. So of course, if we find a little crack here, we just need to punch it open.
Footwork to grab that star.
And Wanda will say that 100 million times during this part of the level, because the game doesn't seem to register that she'd already said it and I already know. I'm just finding more stars because this level is one of the trickier ones. Later on at least. And I want to make sure I have plenty of lives. And yeah, the stars have physics and don't all pick up immediately, which is really annoying. So a lot of them will just blink out of existence. So let's go to the other end of this now, shall we?
It'll take some fancy footwork to grab that star.
Yes, Wonder, it will, but we're not even at the star yet. We haven't even seen the star you're referencing. It's all the way up top of the house. The camera's a little bit stuck there. This area doesn't really work very well with the camera, honestly. It's too many small corridors and the camera gets stuck on the walls very easily. But that was the star she's speaking of, by the way, the one jumping over the platforms over there. There. This is the star, this one.
Collecting 4 more stars isn't too hard. It's like collecting 1 star 4 times.
This level kind of works a lot better than the others because it's kind of going in a big knot almost around the level. It's still a line, but it kind of crosses itself over enough times, and opening enough shortcuts around it if you fall, that it keeps things vaguely interesting.
Getting away.
Drop down here. It seems like there'd be something back here, but there really isn't. Just more stars. But still, that's good for us right now, because we want more stars, because we want a bunch of lives for this level. Because there are moments that get a little bit finicky later on.
3 stars to go.
There we go, we've made a full circuit of the levels now. So let's go this way and finish this off. And now we've lost the gloves forever. That's the most annoying thing with this game, is when it goes to transform thing, you lose your current gadget. Well, now let's just try and stop them painting the town red, shall we? Once we've got this star on the truck. And then saved it.
1, 2, 3, 3 stars. That's pretty good. 1, 2, 2 to go.
Who loves orange soda? Apparently the Yucatanians love orange soda because they use it in all their weaponry. It's such a weak looking weapon though, it's like, it's just... It's not even like it's meant to be anything particularly nice, like, it's not even anything clearly like, at least these are using bubblegum as weapons, which makes sense for the Yucatanians because they're afraid of candy. But that thing is not even anything recognizable. Maybe it's supposed to be orange soda because of that same thing, but it's just not clear at all. It's just some vague goo that for some reason blows things up.
I've identified it. It's a spaceship.
I mean, that also is an interesting idea, the ship being dense enough it cracks the earth when it lands on it. That's an interesting idea. It's just done in the most boring possible way, and this, by the way, is coming up, is the first, the only Crimson Chain card that I actually missed when I first played the game, because this little corridor here is really easy to miss.
And in fresh meat
Because
position.
the walls of the thing look so flat with the way the textures work, that you can often just not tell there's even a tunnel there. I only knew that was there from previous experience of Luke missing that one.
That's a full 5 stars. My wand is humming.
What are you gonna wish for this time?
Surrounded by aliens, outnumbered, outgunned. This is a job for Crash Nebula! If we had enough power, we could conjure the real Crash!
But we'll have to make do with Timmy in a spacesuit. Attempt to activate the Justice Cannon. Bring soft pillow terror upon your alien foes. They hate that.
This part's a bit awkward because it's obvious what you're supposed to do here. Use the pillow cannon to fire at the lasers. But it has such a strange, very shallow arc. So it feels like you're doing it wrong even when you're not. It's like, it's a bit weird. Seriously, that should have hit, but it somehow didn't. And that's what confused me quite a lot. And was like, what am I supposed to even be doing here? Is that right? Because it is right, I'm just not quite making it work. And you can't just jump past it because the jump's kind of terrible in this game. But I was doing it right the first time. You just have to do it from a bit further away because the hitbox on the pillows is wonky. And here we are, the most interesting part of the game, the spaceship.
Find the control.
Don't be scared, hon! What would Crash Nebula do?
He'd find the control room, defeat...
But I'm not Crash Nebula! You're better! You're real!
Defeat the alien guards and take...
Yeah! They won't kidnap my neighborhood! Not if I can help it! That's the spirit! Did you say something, Cosmo, honey?
Take control of the ship and rescue Vicky.
Rescue Vicky? Not if I can help it!
I quite like this park level because it's got the most involved platforming in the game, but in a way that kind of works a lot better than the gem level, because A, it's more visually interesting than just green everywhere, and B, it just feels less frustrating because the platforms are a lot more stable in general, but we'll see that as we see it. There's also more than just jumping on platforms. I mean, it's mostly that, but there's little gimmicks to it, or things you're trying to get to the user platforms to get to. First of all, we just need to open that door, though. So let's go this way and hit the button. And the problem with the Justice Cannon is you can't move while it's out. So you can't have it ready or anything like that, you just have to kind of stay still when you're using it. So I don't really bother using it until the game kind of makes you. Because there's not really much point using it on the Yucatanians, because you just flee you anyway, you just need to dodge them. So let's dodge these things first though. There we go, get the Yucatanian out of the way. This is such a basic thing, it isn't even like... I mean, yeah, they get a bit stuck sometimes, they get a little jittery. Well, this isn't even really a puzzle, it's just kind of busy work. I mean, you could at least make some platforming happen, like maybe make some of these little panels fall away between the buttons, just to make it harder to get to the button, but they just don't. It's just walking to two buttons. Here, however, things get more interesting. I quite like this room because of what you need to do. And the music's really good here, too. This is probably the best music in the game, in my opinion. That I recall. And of course, what we have to do here is use these trolleys to get across, but of course they have 3 different tiers of platforms to jump across. You have to be on the backmost one to have enough height to... and not have boxes in the way so you can get to the other side of the thing. So let's just keep jumping up here, shall we? I mean, it's awkward trying to jump on this little box if you jump from this weird angle. But when you get across here, and because of the way they're moving, you can kind of get a real big jump on, and that's really satisfying to just fly across the entire platform. This is basically, it's the same platform each time, and that kind of gets old, but the music helps keep you pumped for this part of the game, and I quite like just the way you move in this part of the game. It feels a lot more fluid because of just how far you can jump, because you're jumping against the grain. Like that, for example, that's a massive jump and it feels impressive to make compared to all the tiny little jumps that you can barely make. In this case, it's kind of overcompensated, so now the jump's big enough that you have to be careful you don't overshoot. Music's good as well though, so I really like the music in this area. So I quite like the jazz piano and everything and the theremin. It's just a good combination. Feels very classic Star Trek. While also being a little bit Monster Mashy, like a little bit horror song. There we go. That's basically a shortcut. There's nothing up there. I'm going to double check it, but there's nothing up there. It's just a platform to get to the other side of this room again, even though there's no reason to ever do that. I mean, we can go back up there and across this thing, but there's nothing there. So let's not bother. Did a little double jump to make sure I didn't take fall damage.
Yay, more pressy buttons.
And again, it's just press 2 buttons, and that's it. There's not really any trick to them, it's just press the buttons. There's not really much to it. Again, the main problem with the game design in this game is there isn't any, really. And when there is, the platforming just can't really, it can't hold up. And in this part of the game is where the best platforming is because it's less frustrating than the gem level. And even then, it's still not that exciting. It's still fairly basic, it's actually there. So now we've removed those bonus platforms, let's go get that Crimson Chain card, shall we? Including this all the interesting little jumps around these little corners, once I've scared off the Ubotamian. There we go. Yeah, this level just feels like it has some of the biggest jumps you can make. Like, you have the most opportunities to make really big, fun, interesting jumps without having to worry about falling into some kind of goo because it overshot or undershot. So this level gives you the freedom to make a few like extra risks, basically, and that's really helpful for making it feel fun. Because the main problem with the gem level was every platform was necessary because of how clunky a jump was. But in this level you get leeway in the jumps. So you can be a little bit cheekier with them, and that's a lot more fun. So let's get around the world's easiest pushes, shall we?
1, 2, 3, 3 stars. That's pretty good. 1, 2, 2 to go.
And yeah, running at full speed results in you bumping into walls as usual, so let's not do that. I mean, they're moving marginally faster at the end there, but not enough for it to be worth it, and they never bring them back. They don't bring them back in conjunction with a different thing, which would be interesting. I mean, even the Woody Woodpecker game does that on PS2, like, it combines things. It's still bad mechanics, but they're more interesting bad mechanics than the slightly boring bad mechanics in this one, because that game actually has some design elements to it. An exploration to it, even though the levels are chiefly linear. Yeah, I'm speaking of course of Woody Woodpecker Escape from Buzz Buzzard Park. Which also has multiple characters. It's like, it's a really interesting bad game. I actually quite enjoy playing through it. I may do an LP of it at some point. Certainly won't be 100% one, because there are 100% levels to do and stuff like that, but at least playing through all 3 stories. Because there are even 3 stories in the game, it's like, it's a game that tries really hard. It's just the engine really can't back it up. But that's a massive digression. That's nowhere near what this game actually is, which is competently put together, but slightly dull in the execution. But here we have little turrets shooting the world's slowest bubbles. And a room full of Ubotamians that are no threat because they're afraid of us. I barely even know what triggers that door opening. I think it's just destroying all the aliens, or scaring off all the aliens rather. And as you can see, they're actually spawning quite rapidly in this area. But because of how quickly they end up fleeing, there's just not much to them. But yeah, getting rid of all the aliens opens the door, but we also need to get up here for the Crimson Chain card. I quite like the visual design of this level. It's all got the most interesting backgrounds and stuff, like all those guys in pods, for example, and I only just noticed actually. And this little like slightly elevator thing that's a standard in most sci-fi things. There's these little horizontal, diagonal elevators. I forgot cardinal directions. Not cardinal, but I forgot basic. You know what I mean? angles. Words.
Stars! Let's wish! This is an easy one. I wish I could fly like a plane.
Yeah, jetpack. I've always wanted to conjure up a jetpack.
Just jump twice to start whooshing around.
We don't have much power, so, it won't hold you up for too long. But it'll be enough.
The jetpack's kind of awkward, but it works well enough when you know how to compensate for the awkwardness. Like when you know exactly how far you move. Which is a very consistent mechanic. But the problem with that is it's too consistent in some ways. For example, when you're doing that little boost, you always have to boost to maximum. You can't interrupt the boost to just drop where you are. So you have to kind of just stop your horizontal motion when you know you're already over the object. Otherwise, you'll just keep carrying on beyond the object and fall off the other side of it. Because Timmy won't stop boosting. Which is really annoying. And of course you have this big arrow pointing out exactly where you go. So even though this area could have been an interesting puzzle, it just kind of falls flat because you have this big arrow telling you exactly where you need to go. So there's not even much thought to it. Like, there's not really any spatial reasoning or anything like that. Like, it could have been in this level. It could have been a particularly interesting section. But as it is, it's just follow the big arrow. Yeah, that was a kind of a close call. Problem, of course, you can't move the camera around very effectively, so, like, vertically. So if you go a bit too high above the platform, you just can't see them. And that's annoying. And of course, on these tiny platforms, it's really hard to avoid these bubbles as well. I mean, I think the idea here is actually to use the pillow cannon. I just didn't think to, so this just kept happening. I say kept, it happened a couple of times. But that's what the bubblegum does, so I figured it was worth showing it off. But like a lot of things in this game, it just takes a little bit too long. Happily, the checkpoints in this room are very generous. So we don't have to stop right from the start. There we go, there we go. He got him to fire in the wrong direction, now he's gone. And now this guy's gone too. And that was just like... And yeah, he is just stuck. He's just kind of, well, I don't know what I'm doing here now. I'm just kind of glitching out. Because even though this level's the best of them, it's still a little bit ridiculous with that kind of stuff. It's like, it's still poorly put together. It's just less poorly put together than the other parts of the game. At least there's more thought to it. There we go, he's gone now, so we won't be bubbling us anytime soon. And here's yet another card. Our last card.
And in fresh mint condition.
Now we just need to work out how to get to the end of the room. It's just across the way over here. Using this little platform that goes straight down. And then from there, we actually find that big arrow again, which tells us again where to go. So let's go back to the big arrow, shall we? I think we lost it because we got bubbled a couple of times. It just kind of, we fell behind with it. But here we are, finally the end of this room. So here's a fairly interesting little section, going to either of the rooms on either side and activating these big things, so that we can open the door in front of us. Again, this part of the game is trying something. It's just, as you'll see, it's not quite trying hard enough for what it wants to be. Here I couldn't quite recall if these side paths were anything. They're not, they're just collections of stars. But I just wasn't certain whether that was more of an exit than an entrance. Like, I wasn't sure if you had to go out the outside first and then come back down the inside. That's not the case. I kind of realised that here, that it's just now, just as it ends, so let's move on. Barely made that one. Yeah, the jetpack can be quite awkward to use. But here's an elevator we can use. And now let's go across these giant cogs. Let's get in gear. Annoyingly, we can't quite make it with the jetpack. That would have been quite fun to do, just go from cog to cog, but the jetpack is literally just too shy to actually make it, which is just annoying, really. I mean, they could easily just give us a little extra airtime and allowed us to go from cog to cog. That would have been more fun, but they didn't. That's just kind of, again, examples of where they could have allowed you to have a bit of fun, but it seems like they almost deliberately didn't in that case. Like, they deliberately spaced the cogs just a half-inch too far apart to do anything fun with them. It's just a very basic, go on the platform when it's horizontal. Now I was going to do 2 horizontals, we'll go over this one instead. There we are. And back down the elevator that blends a little bit too well into the rest of the thing. It's not quite a bold enough outline there, but there we go. Just have to remember it's there, pretty much. I mean, the other side of the room has something that feels like it's trying for something, but doesn't actually do anything that I can tell. Like, nothing obvious anyway. Like, this big searchlight feels like it would be a stealthy thing, but I don't know if it can even catch you, or what's even happening though if it's just a visual thing. I think it can catch you, but I don't know what even happens if it does. It's just really easy to avoid because it moves very slowly, and it's just a matter of jumping over these pipes somewhere there. There's no other threat in the way, pretty much. That's pretty much all the platforming in this room done. I mean, it feels like the searchlight was trying to be something, and it just failed. But I do like this room's visual gags, so that's at least something. So let's just press the button, shall we? We might be able to make that jump all the way back, but I don't want to risk it. Because when the jetpack stops, you just go straight down. And there we go. Now we can open the door. Let's go back to it, shall we? The safe way, because again, I can't tell if that's a jump I can actually make or not. The jetpack is just a little bit too horizontally challenged. And too vertically ridiculous to be able to actually make that kind of thing with ease. But I quite like the giant plug though, that's a cute visual gag. We've got 7 lives now, it's quite a lot. Yeah, this level is probably where we're going to have like the most lives in pretty much close to in the game, unless we get very good at the later levels. Here we are. Giant elevator, what fun. Looks very Final Fantasy X. Like the closer elevators. And here is a big button! A more interesting button than the other buttons, because it does more than just opening a door. I mean, it's basically opening a door, but it's dressed up a little bit. Because you see, we're actually not just in a room here in the spaceship. We're in the cockpit. That button lands us on New Britannia. And of course, just going back out that way, you could think you could explore the planet's surface, but now it just takes you straight to the ship. It's just like a cutscene to get back into the ship, pretty much. So let's finish the level over here, shall we?
Where are we?
What is this? Who is this tiny earth creature?
He controls our ship. He must be a mighty warrior. You have no right to kidnap people or suck out their brains with bendy straws.
Oh, the small one appears to be challenging us.
So be it.
Tell the Earth Warrior of the 3 tests. Irritating rhyming guard.
Tests?
Yes, sir. To save your people, you must be as strong and fearless as are we. First test of 3, a test of power. You must cross the field of flowers.
What's the catch?
Come on, Timmy. Let's show these oily aliens what we're made of.
But not literally, honey.
I mean, this part's really weird, because the whole point of these tests was that the Yucatamians were scared of completely harmless things. Here it's perfectly reasonable to be scared of this test. And here this is annoying, because the honey slows you down really badly. So you have to kind of slip around all over the place to try and get around these two piranhas. It can be very hard to actually get around them because it moves so slowly in them like this. And you end up being put back to the beginning of the honey as well, so it's really irritating to try and get through this area. And I tried to do the jetpack thing here, and the jetpack, because we've transformed again, won't work. Because it only worked in the parts of the game where it wants it to work. So it's just really kind of... here, I'm trying to use the jetpack, and it's just not working.
To fell our foe, we'll hide our fearful looks of woe and ask the warrior if he's ready to face the terror of the teddies.
This planet is really weird.
I've seen weirder.
Well, these teddies don't
And again, this is just a big arena fight, but like, why would these teddies be dangerous? The whole point of Mesopotamia is they're afraid of completely harmless things because of how backward, literally backwards their planet is. Everything harmless is harmful to them and vice versa, essentially. So it's like, it's just a very strange take. I mean, I know it's just to make it more video gamey, because of course it's a final bossy sort of thing, so it has to be challenging, but it's just a strange choice. I mean, you could have more logical final bosses for Mesopotamia level, and the second game uses one.
Cute fluffy bears give even me nightmares.
Do these Earthlings know nothing of fear?
Only the mighty come this far, but the toughest test of all remains the horror of the chocolate bar, filled with sugar, packed with pain.
His rhyming pattern changed.
I think he's scared, poor dear. One more test to go.
I do like that little gag with the rhyming pattern changing. That's a cute little thing.
It looks perfectly safe to me.
And in what ways is a chocolate bar? More of a chocolate bath, really. It's just a very basic platforming challenge with a few very basic enemies that throw bubblegum at you. It's just... there's really... I quite like the design of them, like the big kind of squeaky toy, kind of like bath toys, but there's just not really much to them. And they don't really fit the whole chocolate aesthetic. I mean, I think they're supposed to be like chocolate dinosaurs or something like that, but it's... the way they move and everything like that, the sound effects they make, they feel a lot more like squeaky bath toys than chocolate anything. It's just kind of a dull section as well, because it's just a lot of kind of jumping on the same platforms. Nothing changes about the platforms. You're just jumping across more platforms to get to another button. There's just not much to it. They don't even get rid of some of the platforms in a pattern or anything like that. It'll make you have to kind of work out a path between the things. Like, you don't have a thing where maybe the pink ones would fall down or the white ones would fall down or something like that. They're just kind of there in a big grid to jump across. It's a very basic challenge that they're trying to dress up as a final boss worthy challenge, but it's just, there's not really much to it. But there we are, we're done with the level now.
I fear the Earth Warrior's cheesy grin.
Hush, most glutinous queen. Our space empire stands at a crossroads. One wrong word may ruin us all.
I just want all the Earth people restored to exactly as they were before you invaded, okay?
Why, yes, of course. All will be restored, O foulest of beings.
And I'll have that in writing, please.
The hideous word, please, fails to burn its tongue.
And now, obnoxious one, I will honor our bargain.
I mean, most of the writing of that scene's fine when it comes to the odd parents canon and everything like that. It's just the weirdness of the actual tests themselves that throws everything out of whack.
Well, we got home okay. Everything's back to normal, and we got some pages of the rules.
Yes! We saved the neighborhood and retrieved some pages of the rules. It looks like everything worked out perfectly.
Or maybe not.
And there we go, we're done with that level now. So, join me next time as we go through the next one. We only have 3 more to go, after all. Goodbye.